listening to Your Brain on Air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Słuchasz Cygnus na powietrzu. Program zacznie się wkrótce. Cieszysz.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. And Fargo woman charged with felony aggravated assault after police say she threw boiling water on her neighbor, leaving severe burns. Maybe she was just trying to do the thing where you throw the boiling water up and it turns into snow, but it's summer. Maybe she was confused and she just wanted to show her friend because she was mad at her. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. I hope life is treating you better than this poor woman. I mean, she's so demented in her head, and her neighbor was apparently such a bitch, she had to pour ramen water on her head. Isn't that spooky? Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I think this woman, listen, I think that she's beautiful. I think she really just has this, like, dead-eyed, creepy stare about her. You know, I think that, I'm just gonna say it, boys, keep an eye out for this one, because, you know, she's I'm going to assume single. I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to assume that she's single. You know, boys, keep an eye out for this one. She's a keeper if you can manage to find her. And, you know, I'd wait until her rehab is over before I meet her for coffee, gentlemen. But she'll be available probably in a few months based on our prisoner and bail systems. Boys, I think she's single. Keep an eye out for her. Let's hear about this from VL Valley News Live.
Police say a Fargo woman is facing a felony aggravated assault charge after allegedly throwing boiling water on her neighbor. For your Valley News Now digital update, I'm Devin Fry. According to a Fargo police incident report, officers were called around 8:41 a.m. on Saturday, June 28th, to the Arbors apartment complex.
Up by 6th Avenue.
The victim had severe burns to her neck,
Oy.
shoulder, and back. Fargo Fire took her to an ambulance. A witness told officers they saw Crystal Dean throw the hot water on the victim's back. The victim told police Dean approached her on the third floor carrying a pot and a black bucket, asked, quote, "Are you gonna run?" And then the victim tried to get away. Police say the victim made it to the stairs, and that's when the water was thrown. Then the victim says Dean grabbed her shirt, but she got free and ran for help. Officers documented multiple burn marks, with skin even burned off in several areas. Dean reportedly told officers that the act was out of retaliation and that the water was from the sink and that it wasn't boiling. She was booked into the Cass County Jail and now faces the felony aggravated assault charge. For your Valley News Now digital update, I'm Devin Fry.
Well, folks, you know, I know it's tough to believe her, but maybe it was just directly from the tap, and it was, you know, maybe the woman's being dramatic. Maybe she burned herself with a lighter in the parking lot. Who are we to say? I certainly don't know. Did you see the security camera footage? Did you see exactly what happened? No, you didn't. So listen, I am one to believe my brothers and sisters of color. I don't know if you are, but I certainly am. I'm certainly one to believe them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wait until the court tells me exactly what her fate is and whether or not she's truly guilty. Of course, it's going to be a little skewed because, obviously, racial injustice. She's going to... Listen, I personally think she might have just not done anything. I think this is a case of police brutality. I think this is a case of them overstepping. I think this is a case of them, targeting her because she's black, not because she burned a woman, allegedly, with boiling water. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe this is just another case of racial injustice. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of racial injustice, I don't know how, this is a segue somehow to gambling disorders. I have so many people in my life, close to me, friends and whatnot, that have serious gambling problems. Really, like, I should be calling somebody in their family, like, they need to have their cards taken away from them. The gambling disorder diagnoses have risen about 60% in states with legal sports betting. Listen, this is according to researchers, and also rates declined slightly in states where it remained illegal. Dr. Darian Sutton, whoever this buzzkill is, he's breaking down the findings, who might be most at risk, particularly young adults and men, and the warning signs that it might be time to seek help. It might be time to seek help when you're draining your account and every time you get a check heading to the casino.
New studies raising concerns about gambling disorders. New data shows diagnoses increase over 60% in states that have legalized sports betting, but fell slightly in states where it's illegal. ABC's medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton is here for more on that in today's checkup. So, Dr. Sutton, how do you determine when gambling crosses the line into a disorder?
It's really hard to tell because I grew up with people who played cards at the table. I grew up with people that would like bet on games, bet on sports and whatnot, bet on horse races, all these sorts of things. And it's normalized. It's a very normalized thing, especially when it's like it's done sort of in the family or with friends. So there's really no reason to let Uncle Sam know about it so he can get a slice out of it. You know what I mean? Because that's the entire reason that gambling is illegal, because it's really hard to tax, or at least it's harder to tax than most things. And that's one of many reasons that it's illegal. It's also illegal, honestly, because it's not very good for the human soul. But that's divisive, that's debatable, and honestly, I believe that everybody has the right to fuck up their own lives.
Diagnosis. When you look this thing up, when you look this topic up, it's more than just placing a bet. What you have to understand when you look at the science of this is that it's considered a diagnosis or a disorder because gambling can change the way the brain's reward system works. The unpredictability and excitement of gambling can lead to the release of dopamine, that's that important neurochemical, and that can cause you to losing control despite the real risk, and that's what defines this as a disorder, the loss of control despite harm. And the reason why we're getting concerns from medicine is because data like this includes nearly 200 million people going back nearly a decade, and it shows, as you said, that the rate of gambling disorder has risen in states.
I know people who tell me they're not happy at the end of the week if they have not bet on something, if they have not played slot machines once, if they have not done. I know people that really, it's desperate, it's sad, it's really, it's a problem.
It's legalized by more than 60%, but more importantly, if this is left untreated, it's more than just financial risk or financial ruin. We're talking about interruptions in interpersonal social relationships, a loss of jobs, increased rates of anxiety, depression, increased risk of substance use disorder, and even, Diane, in its severest forms, suicidal thoughts. So this can very quickly go from what seems like a benign or small problem to a very serious diagnosis.
Is there a particular group that's more at risk?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks to be that the overall highest diagnosis were among young adults from ages 30 to 49. And Diane, the fastest increase occurred among young adults, 18 to 29. The rates were more than doubled, and men were more likely to be diagnosed more than women across all age groups. Now, the signs of
men are more likely, but women do go just as deep. Listen, men and women, when it comes to gambling, they both have minds, and they both have the ability to sort of devise out their plans and whatnot. But I'm just going to be honest with you, they have different styles of being unhinged, and honestly, I don't know which one is more terrifying. I don't know which one is scarier, because they both go down the same hole. I know men are more likely to be diagnosed with it, but I've seen with the women gamblers that I've known in my life, they go deep.
Disorder, it's so important to understand because it can look different from person to person, but most importantly, that loss of control is a key factor here. Spending more than intended, or spending high amounts of money to get that same level of excitement, that's a part of that addiction ladder that you can unfortunately climb up. The restlessness and irritability that can come when you're not gambling, that's a sign of withdrawal. And more importantly, lying to conceal. This is a very big red flag that many people should pay attention to, especially if you have a partner that's constantly gambling.
So once you determine that someone has a gambling disorder, how do you treat it?
I think looking at this like a diagnosis and a disorder is where you have to start, because often we assume moral failure is a reason why people are choosing to gamble, but we know that there is a biological reasoning why people just simply cannot stop. And you treat this in the very same way that you would treat other addiction or disorders of abuse. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a very helpful factor to start with. There are support groups, Gambling Anonymous, and you can also take steps to block your access if you find that you're having a risk of increased gambling disorder use. For example, blocking your access with software that you can use. You can even exclude yourself from programs. For example,
you have to police yourself like a child. You have to put locks on your phone. You have to be like, I'm done with the DraftKings. What the hell?
You can voluntarily block yourself from legal gambling venues and online betting venues. This can help you to stop your use.
So you're telling the venues, don't let me in here, don't let me access this site.
Exactly, and you can do that online, and you can also do that in person in certain states, and it can block you from doing that for a set period of time, and so that can help you to reduce your risk. But of course, identifying the risk is so important.
Okay, all great points. Thank you for everything. I forgot his name. I wanted to give him credit. Someone on ABC News, I'm pretty sure. Ladies and gentlemen, in general, you know if you have a problem. You know if you have really this issue with gambling, and many people do, and many people are really close to winning big. Honestly, there are so many times where I've seen those people where they have serious gambling problems. They also come back with like seriously big vouchers, and they're like, "Shit, man, I actually kind of doubled it tonight." And you're like, "Okay, well, good for you. That's awesome." And there are other cases where I've seen people lose thousands of dollars. It is immense. It's unstoppable. These people will not be tamed, and honestly, it's not up to any of us to tame them. It's up to us to either let them figure out they have a problem, or eventually win big one day, or eventually die. And that will be the case for every single one of the really serious pro gamblers out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to say. It's not up to you to save everybody. You're busy. You have a life. You know what I mean? You cannot be expected to save every person from their own demons. It's not your responsibility. Now, if this is your husband or if this is your spouse, that's a completely different story. Unfortunately, you're stuck with them. You need them to get their act in order. But otherwise, just ditch them. If they have a serious gambling problem and they have no interest in fixing it, and you're not married, ditch them. It's actually pretty easy to do that. It would actually be preferable to a life of them losing your house every other year. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's just like the straight facts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into our first story that we actually have for the day. The Supreme Court has rejected Trump's attempt to limit birthright citizenship. Now, I have a very nuanced take on this issue, in the sense where this was like a 6-3 decision in the ruling, and it struck down the executive order that sought to end automatic birthright citizenship for children born in the United States to undocumented or temporary status parents. Now, temporary status, that's one where I look at it and I go, well, your parents were originally here temporarily. They were never meant to be here permanently. I don't know whether or not your status is, in my opinion, debatable. I don't mind where the Constitution lays on it, where it's like, well, you're here for the time that you're here. Let's grant you the citizenship while you have literally been born here. Sure, I don't mind that. Now, where it gets a little shakier for me is where we look at the undocumented peoples. I don't love the idea that because, technically you made it over the line, you made it into our country, and, now you've kind of established your own life here. You got your anchor baby, you got your nice source that's going to make sure that we can't really send you away or send them away. I understand that it's a little more complicated, especially in those instances where they've known nothing else except for the American lifestyle. I think we need to debate the degree of citizenship that we have. I think we need to have citizenship be a sacred institution that everybody who has it holds very sacredly. People who come to this country attain it rightfully so. And if your child is born here without you having the proper right to citizenship, I don't know how much that stands up in the court. I don't know how much it should stand up. I actually believe it should be subject to some level of a debate. But I understand the ruling that the court came down to today. I understand it. I'm not against it. I understand where they came down to. The decision essentially blocks one of the administration's most contentious day one directives from his second term, ensuring that a century-old understanding of the American citizenship that we have now remains intact. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts reaffirmed that the Constitution's 14th Amendment protects anyone born on U.S. soil. Roberts noted that citizenship is the right to have rights, and that the framers of the amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person on the land. Chief Justice was joined by the court's 3 liberal justices, as well as conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Justice Brett Kavanaugh agreed with the outcome under a separate legal reasoning, while Justice Thomas Alito and Gorsuch dissented. The ruling marks the second massive judicial defeat for the White House this year, following the High Court decision in February that dismantled the administration's sweeping tariff policies, and the executive order on citizenship had been frozen by lower courts since its signing, meaning it never actually took effect. So with today's final decision, the court has firmly established that the president cannot rewrite the constitutional birthright protections through executive action alone. I think that's actually fine. I think that if anything, we should have to work this through the constitutional, through a constitutional amendment. I believe in that. I believe that if anything, we should have to amend the Constitution again in order to take a look at who we grant citizenship. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with the idea that the president is not able to redefine birthright citizenship. That's great.
How much of a surprise is this, Laura Jarrett?
This is a hugely consequential moment for our constitutional structure, a landmark ruling from the Supreme Court striking down one of the most controversial moves the president has made in this second term. It was a move that no other president...
Remember, everybody was like, Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh, they're gonna, like, bring back slavery or something, and then everybody realized, oh yeah, they're kind of like ordinary, like, justices. They're kind of boring people that maybe, like, they're not gonna turn out to be the, Clarence Thomas types. Maybe they won't, because I understand everybody, everybody has their opinions about Amy Coney Barrett. And Chief Justice, Kager is one of my favorites out there. I'm just going to be honest with you. He's one of my favorites on the bench. The entire bench has been boring as hell, and he makes it exciting every single day he's up there. You cannot argue with me on that. You also cannot argue with me on the fact that he and she have turned out to be surprisingly middle-of-the-road conservative justices. Surprisingly. Not everybody thought that would be the case.
We're essentially rolling back a right guaranteed under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, a right to have citizenship guaranteed automatically, no matter the status of your parents, no matter if they are undocumented, no matter if they are here temporarily. If you were born on U.S. soil, the 14th Amendment says that you get citizenship automatically, full stop. Now, the court, of course, has been looking at this for quite some time. In fact, they took this up last term, but they didn't wade into the merits. This time, they went all the way, and they had to get into the actual heart of the issue, if you will, and take on that constitutional question that had been resolved dating back to the 1890s. The Supreme Court looked at this case in the case of a Chinese immigrant, someone whose parents were born abroad, but was born in San Francisco. And in that case, back in the 1890s, the court said that person had enjoyed birthright citizenship. And that had been the law of the land since that time until the President Trump, tried to undo that by an executive order passed on his very first day of his second term. It's a case that he has cared deeply about. It's a case that he has called a disgrace, birthright citizenship. In fact, he showed up to the Supreme Court, the first sitting president to do that in history, showed up to face down the justices, but today they told him no, Craig. And so I'm now going to dig into the actual content of that opinion.
How good. Well, I'll put that in the description if anybody would like to continue on that lane of conversation. Listen, I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to hear that he did not stock it up with yes men. I'm happy to hear that maybe there are still levers of power that he will not be able to wield for himself. I'm happy to know that if he is likely to run in 2028, he will not be able to steal the election the way that he had, many people inarguably were correct. He was like, find me however many thousand votes, and they said no. I think that thankfully there will be enough people living in a layer of reality that they cannot deny, otherwise they realize they will probably go to jail because they know that Trump does not currently control the military. I'm happy to hear that at least the highest court in the land is still willing to reject some of his wants and desires. Ladies and gentlemen, take comfort in what little there is, or don't. It's up to you. Wildfires in Colorado are rapidly spreading. They're destroying buildings and forcing evacuations. So it's fueled by the blinding 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, record heat, severe drought. Multiple fires have erupted across the state's western slope, high country, and southern plains. Officials have declared the state of emergency as rapidly moving flames continue to overwhelm local resources, consuming nearly 100,000 acres in a matter of days. Yikes. Listen, if you live in Colorado, best of luck to you, especially because the fire behavior has been described as erratic and unprecedented, forcing immediate mandatory evacuations for several communities in southern Colorado. The entire town of Beulah, B-E-U-L-A-H, they have been ordered to flee, while extreme conditions farther west have been triggering level 3 emergency orders for neighbors near Ouray, O-U-R-A-Y, and parts of Montezuma County. Montezuma is a little easier. Desperate residents are being told to leave immediately immediately. Emergency officials are taking rare steps of advising livestock owners to cut their fences if they lack the transit to evacuate their animals effectively. Tragedy is also struck on the front lines of the fire. Federal officials have confirmed that 3 wildland firefighters have already lost their lives. 2 others were hospitalized after being trapped by a sudden change of the wind direction along the Colorado-Utah border. The hurricane-force winds have already severely hindered firefighting efforts, frequently grounding air tankers and helicopters and forcing ground crews to focus strictly on defensive maneuvers to protect their lives and structures. Oh, my goodness. And unspecified numbers of homes and buildings have already been lost, with 0% of containment reported on the state's largest blazes. It's far from over, unfortunately. Emergency shelters have been established at several regional sites, and authorities are also urging all residents in affected areas to monitor emergency alerts closely as shifting winds are continuing to push the flames into new territory. And it's getting like apocalyptic. It's getting for many residents, like, listen, it's not the end of days, but for them, it feels like it. For many people, it does feel like that. Well, like, listen, it's hard to feel it when you're states away, as I am. But when the floods come for you, when the fires come for you, it will feel like the end of the world to you. That's the thing.
Dangerous heat spreading in the east and wildfires in the west. I want you to take a look at these flames in Colorado. Multiple fires erupted in the last 24 hours, and they are moving fast.
Damn.
Meantime, it is dangerously hot in much of the country. It feels like more than 100 from the Gulf to the Great Lakes. Jonah Kaplan is covering the fires, but we will start with CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano. Rob, good morning.
Rob.
Good morning, Nate. It is a beautiful morning to start here in Central Park, but that heat is building east, and now New York City is under a heat warning beginning tomorrow, along with dozens of other major cities. So there's a lot of red on this map, and you've got to just be careful and be responsible out there as you make plans into the holiday weekend. And we've got Des Moines, Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis, record-breaking temperatures expected there. And this is different from your typical summer spell. This is a heat dome, which means there's high pressure at the top and bottom of the atmosphere, centered over land. So you've got sinking air, you've got that strong late June, early July sun, and then you got humidity that continues to build over. So a lot of clear skies, and any sort of thunderstorms are really on the periphery of that.
Periphery.
So temperatures in the upper 90s measured in the shade, but with humidity. Those are the red numbers there. 106 Chicago, 105 today in St. Louis, 108 today in Detroit. That is dangerously hot stuff, and then it does slide off towards the east as we head through tomorrow. And look at the number of potential high temperature records tomorrow. Dozens of them from Toledo to Detroit, all the way up through Portland, Maine, and down into the mid-Atlantic states. Meanwhile, in the Intermountain West, critical fire danger again today with red flag warnings up in Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and into Utah, where the biggest fires are burning right now. And that's where you find CBS News correspondent Jonah Kaplan reporting.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't sound fun.
Rapidly spread across tens of thousands of acres in western and southern Colorado. South of
Colorado
Springs, billowing flames destroyed buildings and forced more than 4,000 people to leave their homes. This video is from the Gold Mountain area, 200 miles southwest of Denver.
I mean, it's
Just
beautiful.
Look at the size of the infernos, burning parks and campgrounds. In another blaze near the Utah state line, fires moved too quickly for firefighters trying to build a fire line. In Utah, the combined area that's either burned or is now on fire is nearly twice the size of the city of Chicago. Green mountainsides have turned to black landscapes. Terry Underwood says she had to quickly evacuate her home south of Salt Lake City.
It's hard to go away and to know you might be coming home to nothing.
Underwood's husband, Dan, has been a firefighter for 18 years. He was on the front lines battling quickly approaching flames while she stayed with other family.
We didn't sleep much, that's for sure. I was worried about my husband, his safety.
They've since been allowed to return, and fortunately, their home is still standing.
This fire, even if it did destroy buildings, it could never take away your resolve.
No, because if you have your family, that's all that matters. A building can be rebuilt, but your family can't.
Damn.
There is some good news here in Utah. Crews are able to contain some of the fires thanks to cooler temperatures, some softer winds. Vlad, a lot of crews here, though. Long days ahead at this incident command post. They're working very hard on behalf of their community.
Best of luck to you, Utah. The most that I know about you is Mormons, and Five Nights at Freddy's takes place there. Or at least the games do. I think the movie franchise takes place in Minnesota. I don't know. It's at least what I've heard, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to the rapid-fire section of today's headlines. Lots of things you need to know about in order to keep your media diet healthy. So, I want to give you some unfortunate news. Operation Dry Water. The Minnesota DNR and other agencies are launching it. The national campaign is aimed at targeting boating under the influence. I have had family members. My own father had boating under the influence. It's a very common thing, regrettably, when you live in the land of 10,000 lakes. It's just kind of a thing that you get once in a while. I personally have been able to avoid it, thankfully enough, because DNR agents are kind of like an urban legend. Sometimes you see them. It's kind of like something where, that's the people who have seen them. There's only a few who've lived to tell the tale. I want to break this to you. Unfortunately, this is right before the 4th of July. They are in the mood to kill your good time. They don't want you having a good time on that pontoon. And I know this because I was at the lake cabin one year for 4th of July, and one pontooner slammed into our neighbor's dock, broke it into pieces. It was a boater under the influence, and he had a great time. He had a great time until he slammed into our neighbor's dock and broke it into pieces, fucked up his pontoon. It looked like it was somewhat moving, afterwards. It looked like he could kind of move it, but otherwise, the cops showed up. It was, it was a whole thing. It was very unfortunate for him, and there's a lot of things that happen like that, and you just have to accept it with the 4th of July energy. But Minnesota does not want to be a state where fun things happen anymore. It wants to be a state of like negative Nellies.
Ahead of the 4th of July holiday, the Minnesota DNR and other agencies are launching Operation Dry Water.
You bastards.
A campaign aimed at targeting boating under the influence. The goal is to reduce the number of BWI-related boating accidents between July 3rd and 5th.
Damn it. So basically, expect to be pulled over. You're going to be fishing for the 4th of July. You're going to be having a great time out there with your family, maybe your uncle, your grandpa, whatever. And they're going to pull up next to you in a little canoe or something like that. They're going to be like, we're doing a quick breathalyzer just to make sure you're not boating under the influence. And then they're going to, will you subject yourself to one of these mobility tests? And you're like, sure. And then if you stumble a little bit when you're doing the walk on the line test because you're on a fucking boat, they're gonna be like, oh, he stumbled a little bit. I think that counts a little bit against him. It's gonna be unfortunate. Oh, speaking of drinkers, ladies and gentlemen, so in the UK, digital ID, they're trying to normalize this. They're trying to normalize digital ID. They're trying to normalize Big Brother because they're trying to say, not only is it going to help us in identifying you, it's going to help us in figuring out where you are, who you are, everything, all of that. You're not going to have a need for a driver's license anymore. It's all going to be through digital stuff. And then eventually we're just going to take the digital stuff and we're just going to implant it into you. And then you're going to have this chip thing. And then it's going to, anytime we want to, we can scan out, figure out where you are, figure out your location. But it's for convenience. It's for a convenience factor. You don't even need tap to pay anymore. Just tap your wrist on the payment vector, and you've paid for your I don't know, your froyo or some shit. That is what they're going to try to sell this with you. They're going to go. It's for your convenience that you have a digital ID. Drinkers will be able to buy booze using digital ID within months to spare the hassle. This is how they word it, of taking physical documents to the pub. Who wants to bring physical documents like a driver's license when you can just, have this thing in your eye that we just put a thing up to you and scan you? It's like a fucking movie. It's like a Minority Report. That is what the future will be.
Drinkers will be able to buy alcohol using digital ID within months.
Gross.
New laws will allow bars and supermarkets to check someone's age while using an app on their phone.
Wow.
Saving them from carrying a physical document like a passport or driving license. To
Who
prove
wants
their
to
age,
carry that?
hunters will have to use a government-backed app on their phone. People will still be able to use physical documents if they prefer when the changes come in this autumn.
in this autumn, the government will have an app on your phone in order to make sure that you're not spreading any misinformation or being Islamophobic. It's better for the entirety of our country, mate. It's for the best. It's for the good of man. Yeah, speaking of the good of man, actually, Europe knows quite a bit about this. They're warming faster than any other continent. They also have some of the oldest populations of any continent, and last week's record heat in France has been linked to roughly 1,000 excess deaths, and some are saying that the answer is not just more air conditioning. The retards are saying that. Just get air conditioning. Just get air conditioning. I think that would fix it. I'm literally gonna turn it on right now. It sounds so beautiful. It's not even that loud. It's pretty loud. There it is. That's air right there, bitch. 60 degrees, it's what it's going to try to get this room to. God, the cat loves it. The cat's like, yeah, man, turn that shit on. You enjoy that? Yeah, this cat's happy. All right. Europe is warming. Let's take a look at what they're talking about on CBS Evening News. The debate is still raging. And by the way, this may have been linked, the heat, at least, the lack of air conditioners may have been linked to roughly, I think this is the real numbers, 200,000 excess deaths in the last, I think it was 4 years, was it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
In Europe, there's a perfect storm. The oldest population on any continent that's warming the fastest. France's record heat last week is linked to roughly 1,000 deaths of mostly elderly.
Of all climate-related impacts and hazards, heat is the biggest killer.
European officials are calling for change, but not the kind that may seem obvious. Install air conditioning, especially for vulnerable people, and save lives. Why is that not a solution in Europe?
My honest response is I don't think that should be the solution anywhere.
You're retards.
Term, what happens is
it makes the outside hotter.
It's more heat into our environment, so it will actually.
Yeah, that's the point. It's the point. That's you retard. That's the point. Get the heat out of the interior and make it hotter outside to exchange the coolie in here. Don't you get it? That's AC.
The speed of warming.
It's also more expensive. Energy prices are much higher in Europe. Governments find other ways to cool historic and densely populated cities.
Yeah, spray everybody with hoses like black people.
Technology is distributed to monitor the elderly, who are by far in the most danger. A recent survey in France said 1 in 6 people they surveyed.
Seriously, it's like civil rights protesters, like the black people who were like trying to sit at lunch counters getting sprayed with hoses. That's what they're trying to cool people down with.
They'd rather suffer for the sake of the environment. Does that surprise you?
No. We're not doing this for us. We're doing this for the future generations.
We're doing this for the future. The future generations will also get heat stroke while they chill in their pool. All right. It's actually getting a little chilly in here. It is 90 degrees outside, but it is getting a little chilly in here. I know that you have the fan on still. You don't have to be. You don't need a fan. You don't need the AC. I understand. You're chilling. It's a long-haired cat, so yeah, she does get a little warm, especially during the day. But she's got the fan on. She looks very cool. She looks very chill. I think she's doing well. All right, let's continue. Republican Representative Tom Emmer, a third-ranking House Republican, said Somali immigrants should either assimilate or go the hell back where they came from. Listen, Somalis and every other immigrant, that's just like kind of the truth. It's like I understand he's trying to be a bit of a bigot. I understand he's trying to be a bit out there with his statements. More comments from him. Sometimes Minnesotans are so afraid that you're going to call us racist when you're going to call us an Islamophobe. You're going to call us some name that we just don't want to get in a fight. You know what? I would argue that I never did care, but I'm done being careful, even the least bit careful, he said Thursday at a Faith and Freedom Coalition town hall on Capitol Hill. I don't really care where you come from, but if you come to this country, to this great country, you have to understand you're coming here to be an American. I don't care. Italian, Polish, Somali, okay, but they don't assimilate. If they don't assimilate, then they should go the hell back where they came from. Not even bad, not even a bad exact comment, because that's kind of the truth. It's the truth, unfortunately. Listen, you can bring elements of your culture, you can celebrate it in your household, you can do all that fun stuff, and you can even like do your like, we're like, a Spanish Immigrants Day, that's fun, do like a party on the block or some shit. But you're coming here to be an American. You're coming here to practice American laws. You're not coming here to formulate rape gangs the way that some people do in the United Kingdom. You're not coming here like, and listen, the rape gangs thing is because in other countries, they like bag the women up. And listen, it's not even like it's their culture. It's what they are taught is normal. It's like they're taught the idea of like rape the woman and then marry her later. That's the culture, unfortunately. That is lit. And if you don't like it, take it up with the culture. It's unfortunate, but it's true. It's not something that we're able to ignore, especially when it's not the people who want to come here to be doctors that are always the ones showing up. It's people who found a great opportunity where they're like, oh, why would I live in this shithole where unfortunately the government can't agree on who is actually the government? Why not just go over to the United States? There's tons of freedom over there. There's tons. I can go get a job at like a 7-Eleven. I can get an apartment and I can do whatever the hell I want with like the $600 I have left over for every week. That's like a great opportunity for a lot of these people, so they come on over here. Why not do it? And unfortunately, when they bring certain ideas of how to court women in their cultures, unfortunately they practice it in other countries and it's called rape or it's called other things like that. It's terrible. It's unfortunate. It's something that they have to unfortunately assimilate out of one day. Representative Ilhan Omar, who was born in Somalia, responded, I assimilated all the way to Congress, and this idiot still tells me to go back to where I came from. But you assimilated. You assimilated, though. I don't think he's telling you to go back. Let's hear exactly what this guy has to say, because maybe it sounds worse when he's saying it.
This is the age-old battle that you and I are engaged in, of good versus evil. It's never changed. The battle has been engaged since they left the garden. It has been the same battle. And it just keeps getting more difficult because now our founders, who were Christian, they created a Christian-based nation.
A lot of them were Christian, yeah. Some of them were deists.
And I come from the People's Republic of Minnesota that has been so mismanaged by criminals. They're criminals. They lie, they cheat, and they steal. And by the way, they let immigrants who come to this country not wanting to assimilate lie, cheat, and steal from them our money.
It's true.
What? There is nothing racist about calling out a criminal. So when I say that...
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's a little aggressive.
It's time. I mean, this is what they do in the great state of Minnesota. You know our culture, that Scandinavian culture? By the way, I better make it clear before I go any farther. Minnesotans, are there any here? Ah, good. Then let me just say. Okay, well, born... You're wearing that hat. You must be from northern Minnesota, the Iron Range. No. Probably closer to Iowa. No.
Just stop. Leave that alone.
The reason I bring it up is because I tell people regularly, Minnesota did not create passive-aggressive behavior, but we did perfect it. Okay?
That's correct, yeah.
And I happen to be more...
We are the biggest cunts probably in the country.
On the aggressive side, which... doesn't always work in Minnesota, as Ralph will tell you. You know, sometimes Minnesotans are so afraid that you're going to call us a racist, you're going to call us an Islamophobe, you're going to call us some name that we just don't want to get into that fight. You know what? I would argue that I never did care, but I am done being careful, even the least bit careful.
Nice. I mean, depends on what you mean. Like, if you're saying... oh, we gotta start getting camps ready. I'm gonna be like, whoa, all right. I was thinking maybe stop bringing people in from Somalia, but I'm not into, like, the idea of killing anybody. Like, it depends on how far you mean on, like, I'm done with the niceness. I'm done. Like, when Minnesotans say I'm done with the niceness, it means they're about to kill you.
I don't really care where you come from. But if you come to this great country, you have to understand you're coming here to be an American.
It's true.
We celebrate everyone's culture.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that, as long as you are an American. Celebrate your culture. I don't care. Italian, Polish, Somali.
Come on, just like one not white culture, my guy. Just one. And Polish, I know they're barely white, but they still count. Italians, they still count. They're olive oil skin, they still count.
Okay? But they don't assimilate. And if they don't assimilate, then they should go the hell back to where they came from.
He's not even, he's aggressive.
Ralph, I know this is a family show.
The brother's aggressive. He could work on the presentation a little bit, but otherwise the message is clear, and the message isn't exactly wrong. It's out there. It's definitely a little more harsh than the usual, but, who am I to criticize somebody on their harshness? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we should move on to our final story. It's a rather short episode, but hey, you know what I mean? When it's just repetitive bullshit in the news as per the usual, what else is there to do except for not waste people's time? The United States is seeking peace talks, but Iran is saying that there are currently no plans to meet. So, listen, I know that they have been ones to tell you that we're on a roadmap, we're on a framework. We have this thread that might lead us to the eventual peace talks pre-negotiating period. But conflicting signals are coming from Washington, from Tehran. They're casting a lot of doubt over the future of the diplomacy in general in the Middle East. All of it looks like garbage. The White House has announced that senior U.S. envoys have been deployed to Doha, Qatar, in a direct push to secure a permanent peace agreement to end the months-long conflict. However, Iran's foreign ministry quickly pushed back, stating that no high-level or direct meetings have been scheduled with American officials. That's not great. Over the weekend, the truce was pushed to its absolute limit following a series of military exchanges and drone strikes across the Persian Gulf. The White House is insisting both sides are standing down after the weekend flare-up. The fresh violence has kind of strained the negotiation process a little bit, heightened a little bit of anxieties. At the heart, though, of the dispute over terms of the internal initial agreement, partially regarding the reopening of the vital Strait of Hormuz lane, Tehran is demanding the immediate release of $6 billion in frozen Iranian financial assets currently held in Qatari banks before committing to broader talks. Meanwhile, Washington is maintaining that Iran must first show full compliance with maritime safety and uranium limits before any sanctions, relief, or funds are officially unlocked. Lower-level technical delegations from both nations are expected to communicate through regional mediators this week. The lack of face-to-face dialogue, though, is leaving the region balanced on a razor's edge. Global oil markets are swinging with every headline, and the ceasefire is hanging by a thread. International observers are warning that without a breakthrough in Doha, the path to lasting peace is it's pretty much falling apart. It's non-existent.
Is dispatching a high-level team to resume negotiations on a possible peace deal with Iran, but those sides appear far apart on any final agreement. Keir Simmons remains in the region for us with the very latest. Keir, good morning to you.
Craig, good morning to you. President Trump's envoy and his...
It has to be more than 16 deaths at this point.
Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are in Doha right now for those crucial talks, according to the foreign ministry there. A diplomat with knowledge of the talks says today they will meet with the Qatari Prime Minister. Tomorrow, that diplomat says, technical teams from the US and a technical team from Iran will meet with mediators. But Craig, right now, as we speak, there appear to be no plans for a direct meeting between the US and the Iranian teams.
So they're telling us that only 16 Americans have died so far. I guarantee you it's more, and I guarantee you it will be way more before the end of the conflict.
Trump saying insisting that America is doing well, saying perhaps these meetings this week will be important, perhaps not, quote, we're going to find out, insisting that Iran has agreed not to pursue a nuclear weapon, saying, quote, I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they have agreed to that. But Craig, there remain huge differences between the messaging from Washington and the messaging from Tehran. The Iranian foreign ministry is saying that there are no plans for high-level talks and that there have to be a number of stages before talks can begin on a final agreement. One of those stages, the Iranians say, is the release of billions of dollars of Iranian funds. They're divided too, Craig, over the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran insisting that it has sovereignty over that crucial shipping lane. The US, of course, insisting
insisting that it is an international shipping lane. And Craig, amid all this, President Trump putting pressure on gasoline retailers overnight, saying they must get their prices down immediately. Craig?
Our Chief International Correspondent, Keir Simmons. Keir, thank you.
Well, you know, this is kind of like when Xi was trying to control the housing market, speculation, all of these sorts of things. It's like, well, the president or the great leader they can tell the markets to do whatever they want, but the markets are what the markets are. You can't really stop people from being speculative. Whatever. He's trying to vie for any sort of control that he can, and it's not going great. I don't know what else to say, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty precarious, and I'm not believing that this conflict is going to end, at least until I think that there's a chance. There is a chance that he's able to seal something down before the midterms. I'd say that's maybe about, you know what? Let's go with 3 in 10. 3 in 10 odds I'll give him right now. And it could increase, it could decrease, but right now it's not looking very likely. I don't know. I could be wrong. Give me your opinions down below. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's episode, we'll be doing the rest of the week through Friday. We'll give you the weekend off, obviously, to take a break from all of the hell that is the newscape that I try to give you every single day. I've enjoyed getting you these stories. I hope you've had an even better time listening to them. If you'd like more, subscribe to be there for future videos. The next broadcast will be tomorrow. Like if you liked it, ring the bell for notifications. In the meantime, I have been Ollie Vogt Larson with your Brain on Air. Thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you in the next episode, and bye-bye.